I always thought the end would come with screaming, with slammed doors and shattered dishes, with lawyers, letters on crisp paper. I never imagined it would arrive silently, folded into the hollow plastic belly of a purple unicorn named Glitterhoof. My name is Maya, and my marriage ended in a child's playroom with the scent of apple juice and graham crackers hanging in the air. That afternoon was the very picture of our normal, or what I had convinced myself was normal. It was a Tuesday, the kind of day that slips by unnoticed. I was picking up after our 4-year-old, Lily, who was conked out for her nap, her curls damp against her forehead. Ryan, my husband, was at work, or so his shared calendar said. Client dinner, the block read, a neat, impersonal rectangle of blue. The house was quiet, a tomb of good intentions. I gathered stuffed animals, feeling the familiar, low-grade anxiety that had become my constant companion. It was a hum in my blood, a static behind my eyes. I told myself it was just the fatigue of parenting, the weight of managing a household, the slow erosion of passion that happens to everyone after 7 years. I ignored the way Ryan's phone now always landed face down on the counter. I dismissed his new, faintly floral cologne as a midlife crisis. I told myself his emotional distance was stress from his big promotion. The cracks were there, hairline fractures in our porcelain life, but I was an expert at not looking directly at them. As I tossed Glitterhoof into the toy chest, I heard a faint, papery rattle from inside it. That was odd. Lily loved this toy, a garish, singing thing from her 3rd birthday. I.D. bathed it, cuddled it, and never noticed it made a sound like that. A mother knows the sounds of her child's toys. My heart did a strange, sluggish thump. I sat on the rainbow rug, the one we'd picked out together for Lily's big girl room, and turned the unicorn over. Its stomach was a hard plastic panel, sealed with tiny screws. One was missing. Using my fingernail, I pried the panel open. Inside, amidst a small speaker and a battery pack, was a tightly rolled slip of paper. My hands were utterly steady as I unfurled it. That's what shock does sometimes. It makes you preternaturally calm. The handwriting was Ryan's, but a version of his script I hadn't seen in years, the loopy, hurried scrawl from our college notes. It was a single line. Her name is Alara. She has your eyes. I am so sorry. Meet me at the old bridge Thursday, 7 p.m. We have to talk. There was no date. But the paper was crisp, not old. The ink was fresh. The world did not tilt. The sun did not stop streaming through the window. Lilith's little clock, shaped like a ladybug, continued its soft tick-tick-tick. But I felt something inside me detach, a vital mooring line snapping, and I began to float away from myself, watching a woman in yoga pants sitting on a child's rug, holding a piece of paper that had just vaporized her future. Have you ever had a moment where your entire reality just repainted itself? Where every memory, every conversation, every tender glance suddenly gets a new, horrifying frame? That's what happened in the silence of that playroom. Her name is Alara. She has your eyes. Not mine, not Lilith's, yours, the other woman's. He was comparing his love child's eyes to her mother's, and had hidden the confession in our daughter's toy. The calculated cruelty of that location, the sheer psychological violence of it, took my breath away. He knew I'd find it. Eventually. When he was ready. Hadn't hidden his nuclear bomb in the one place he knew I'd be every single day, the epicenter of my love and my duty. He made our child an accomplice. I didn't cry. I folded the paper back up, placed it in my own pocket, and screwed the panel back on Glitterhoof. I finished cleaning. I started dinner. When Ryan came home, smelling of that cologne in the office, I smiled. I asked about his day. I listened to his lies. It was like performing surgery on myself without anesthetic. I was both the surgeon and the patient, coldly precise, observing the damage from a great height, The next day was Wednesday. A lifetime stretched between me and Thursday at 7 p.m. I dropped Lily at preschool, and then I drove. I didn't know where I was going. I ended up at the public library in the genealogy section, surrounded by the dust of other people's pasts. I opened my laptop and I began to dig. It wasn't hard. Social media, the county clerk's online records. Ryan had never been clever, just deceitful. I found her. Lara. A beautiful woman, about my age, with warm, kind eyes. I found the birth announcement, 6 months old, for a baby boy. The father was listed as Ryan, with our last name. The date of conception lined up perfectly with Ryan's fishing trip with the guys last year. The trip I'd encouraged him to take because Head seemed so stressed. I drove to the old bridge that afternoon, hours early. It was where Head proposed. A quaint wooden structure over a sleepy river. I sat in my car and watched the water flow, carrying leaves and twigs away forever. I thought about forgiveness. I thought about Lily. I thought about the financial betrayal that was surely coming, the life we'd built that was half mine but felt suddenly like a stage set. I crafted speeches in my head, full of dignity and wounded rage. I prepared for his tears, his pleas, his excuses. He was already there when I arrived at 7 p.m., leaning against the railing, looking out at the water. He turned, and his face was pale, etched with a genuine anguish that, for a second, made my heart lurch with old habit. He started to speak, to say my name in that broken way. I didn't let him. I walked up to him, the note from Glitterhoof in my hand. I held it up, not giving it to him, just letting him see it. "You hid this in our daughter's toy," I said, my voice eerily flat. "You made her roam your dead drop. That is the single most despicable thing you have ever done to me. More than the affair. More than the child," he crumpled. "Maya, I didn't know how to tell you. I was a coward. I panicked. Lara, she threatened to tell you. I wanted to control the narrative. I wanted to tell you myself. You didn't want to tell me. I corrected him. You wanted to manage me. You planted a time bomb and walked away, letting me find it whenever fate decided. That's not confession. That's cowardice dressed up as intention." I took a deep breath, the cool evening air filling lungs that felt like shattered glass. "I know about the baby. Your son. I've seen the pictures. The fight left him then," he sagged. "I love you, Maya. I love Lily. This was a mistake. A horrible, life-altering mistake. But it doesn't have to end us. We can go to therapy. We can work through this. For Lily." That was his trump card. Always for Lily. And for a moment, the false hope was a warm, seductive blanket. I could picture it. The painful therapy sessions, the slow rebuild, the awkward family gatherings where we'd all pretend. A life of managing his betrayal instead of living my own. A life of wondering every time he was late, of seeing a shadow in every kind-eyed stranger. A life where my daughter's playroom would forever be the place where my heart broke. I looked at him, this man I had loved, whose face was so familiar it was like my own. I saw the fear in his eyes, the desperation, and I knew, with a certainty that was both terrifying and liberating, that I could not do it. The love was not gone. It was just buried under an avalanche of disgust and a profound, unshakable loss of respect. "No, Ryan," I said, my voice finally finding a tremor, but not from weakness, from finality. "We can't. You didn't just break our trust. You weaponized our family. You used our daughter's innocence as a hiding place for your guilt. There is no coming back from that. There is no therapy that can rebuild a foundation you deliberately poisoned." I took the note, the one that had started it all, and I tore it slowly, deliberately, into tiny pieces. I opened my hand and let the breeze catch them, scattering them like ugly confetti over the dark water below. "You will move out this weekend. We will tell Lily together, in a way she can understand. And you will be honest with me, completely and financially, through every step of the divorce, or I will use everything I found today. This is not a negotiation. This is the consequence. I turned and walked back to my car. He didn't follow. He didn't call my name. He just stood on the bridge where he had promised me forever, watching the pieces of his secret float away. I drove home, to my sleeping daughter, to the house that was no longer a home but a crime scene I had to clean up. I sat on the edge of Lilith's bed, watching her chest rise and fall, and I made a silent promise to her that I would build us a new kind of safe, one that didn't have hidden compartments, one where the monsters weren't hiding inside the toys. The story doesn't end with a neat bow. It's messy. It's lawyers and custody schedules, and explaining to a 4-year-old why Daddy has a new house. Sometimes, in the quiet, I miss the man I thought he was. But I look at Glitterhoof, still sitting on the shelf, and I feel not heartbreak, but a cold, clean anger. And that anger, I've discovered, is a powerful foundation to build upon. It's more solid than the false hope he offered on that bridge. I am learning that survival isn't about forgetting the bomb that went off in your life. It's about learning to breathe through the dust and deciding what to rebuild from the rubble. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It's one of the hardest things I've ever shared. If you've ever faced a betrayal that rewired your understanding of someone you loved, I see you. The road out is long, but you don't walk it alone. Please share your own experiences or words of support in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more real, raw stories about love, loss, and the resilience of the human heart.